God of War Ragnarok. Baby, we are here. I finally got to play this game as someone who has loved every God of War game. You know, I got my favorites, obviously, but I've never played a bad God of War game. Even the ones I would put at the bottom of the list would still be considered around at least a 7. And God of War, I'll just go ahead and spoil it for you guys. This is up there. This is a great game. This, I would say, when it comes to PlayStation exclusives so far, haven't played all of them, but when it comes to Sony owned, Sony made games, this is the best one I played. I played a few, but this one, like if someone said, man, why should I get a PS5? I would tell you to get Ragnarok. Now, someone will say, you know, you get this on PS4 and that's fine and dandy, but I never was the type of person that, you know, that doesn't matter. That's like someone saying, why should we get a Switch? You know, in the beginning it was because of Breath of the Wild. Yeah, you could have went and bought a Wii U, but that's not the point. The point is when you think about system sellers, whatever I would deem something that will sell a system, this right here would. So if you don't have a PS5 and you want to play the better running version, because this game is not going to run at 60 frames per second on PS4, it's not going to be in 4K, it's not going to look as good, I would say get a PS5 and enjoy Ragnarok. Now, you already know, you know, this is just the intro, so you already know I like the game, but we're going to go into detail of everything I can think of. I'm not going over every little nook and cranny of everything because you've heard everything. If you want to watch a review where someone's breaking down every story bit, every gameplay mechanic, this is not it. This is for people who I want to just know, like from a typical person, what do they think about a game? Like I know how to deliver things in a very detailed way, but that's not always called for. Some people just want something like, man, I just want to know, bro. Just get in and out. Tell me what's going on with Ragnarok. So here it is. Now we're going to first start off with the gameplay. Now, this game plays a lot like God of War 2018. I'm going to go ahead and tell you something. The issues that God of War 2018 had, this game still has. But they did improve some things. But let's go over the issues first because it's not that many. One, the camera angle, still a problem. This camera angle simply does not work very well for this style of game. I know some people will say they prefer it because it's up close and personal and it makes things feel more impactful. And I do understand you and I even agree, but it doesn't change the fact that this game has a lot of issues with the fact that you're getting hit off screen a lot. So you'll get attacked off screen, hit off screen often. You'll get your combo breaking often because of that. And it can be, it's not annoying to me because I'm used to it, but I can see it being annoying to someone else. So I just want to bring that up. So if you're wondering, man, why do I keep getting hit off screen? Don't beat yourself up about it. That's just because this game isn't designed around it. The camera is too close up on Kratos for you to see your entire surroundings. In a game like this, you want to see more of the screen than not because you're fighting multiple enemies from all different angles and you can't tell. Like I did a boss fight, right, that I'm still stuck on. It's an in-game boss fight. Well, not in-game. You could kind of do it in between. It's a side quest, basically. And I'm fighting like it's 3 enemies. It's like one main enemy and these 2 other enemies that kind of just do projectile attacks. Because the camera cannot keep up with all 3 enemies at one time, you're going to get hit from off screen. You may get like a damage indicator. Like they'll say, hey, you're about to get hit. And it's because you don't know if you're going to get hit off screen or they're talking about the enemy that's literally like you could see someone's about to hit you in front of you. You don't know which is which because it doesn't distinguish half the time. Like none of that stuff really works out well. Yes, Mimir, your talking head buddy, he will warn you and say, hey, you're about to get hit off screen, or he'll say something of that effect. But when you're getting attacked from multiple directions, that's when the game has a problem. And that's actually the developer's fault. The developers are aware that this game is not built for that. So they didn't have to make fights like that, but they chose to do it. So I have to bring it up as a con because they know the limitations of this system. They know the limitations of this camera angle. So that being said, what are the good things? Well, one thing they tried to do, and they did do a good job of it, although it does feel awkward at first, it's not a con, is that they tried to balance the game. See, in God of War 2018, you start the game off very early with this one attack, especially if you're on the harder difficulties, can get you out of a jam. It's where you hold down the right trigger or the heavy attack button, and then Kratos would like, if you hold it down long enough, it's basically an insta-kill. That move is gone. Now it's replaced with like you'll hit the enemy and then throw them. And, you know, it's cool, but it's not a get out of jail free card if you can pull it off. They try to balance the game with like how you level up. So when you level up Kratos, you get tons of XP because the way this game works now, you got the different abilities you can unlock. I noticed that they make you wait very long to unlock a combo. So, you know, the combos are doing light, then heavy, or something like that. Those are some of like the late game attacks you'll unlock through leveling up Kratos. I don't know why they did that, because I'll be honest, until those things unlocked, the combat didn't feel the best. It felt worse than 2018, not because it is, it's just because it takes so long for you to get that stuff. That was kind of a weird thing, but once you get past it, it's cool. And now what you could do too is when you're leveling up different abilities, you can like get these properties on them. So once you like, let's say do one attack multiple times and then you keep unlocking different ranks in that attack, you can now like attach like elemental damage, or you can attack, you can get like stun properties, do more stun damage or get protection. So when you do the attack, if you do get hit, you don't like flinch out of it. So that I thought that element added to the gameplay was cool. It didn't feel like something that was just a minor change. There's also these new abilities where, each weapon can, like, as you do so many attacks in a row, they build up an elemental property, and then you can hold, I think it's left trigger and triangle, and then you could do this type of burst attack where now your attacks are modified for a brief period of time, and each weapon does different things. Like, for example, the axe does these wave attacks, and the blades of chaos will, be engulfed in flame, and you can like build up rage meter. So I thought those things were cool, and it added a different element to gameplay. But I'll just tell you this too: if this stuff sounds complicated for anyone that's kind of a casual player, like I said, I played on normal. You don't have to really use a lot of this stuff unless you're doing like the optional bosses that are more difficult. You can get by just doing basic like light attacks all day. Like this game can be as complicated or as simple as you want it to be. And I know for some people that may sound like a bad thing, but I think that's flexible. I think that's a good thing, because for me, I can get what I want. Like I want to do all the different moves and pay attention to Kratos' combos and lift enemies in the air, slam them down, do all this type of funky stuff. And if someone else just says, hey, I'm in it for the story, I don't want it to be super easy, so I don't want to play on easy mode. I want a little bit of a challenge. You could just sit there, light attack all day, parry at the right time. If you just sit there and if you get the parry and dodge down and do light attacks all day, you could beat all the enemies. It'll be a slow fight, but you can do it. But if you do that, mix in some good combinations of moves and everything, you'll get through fights pretty flashy, and you'll be doing a lot of damage. Another thing they changed in the gameplay department was the armor system. Now before, it was kind of like you just got these armor pieces and they had like, the typical common, legendary, all that stuff. This is different. Now it's like you get different armor pieces. Armor has certain properties, and if you have like the whole set, you get like a full set of properties, and you can level them all up to level 9. And it takes a lot of resources to level up these armor pieces, including your axe and your spear and your blades of chaos too. So that it's like a different interpretation. Is it a better version of it? I feel like this game, I don't know how to, like, it's kind of like something that's just different. It's not necessarily better or worse. It's different, because just like in God of War 2018, I never felt the need, like it was more like just put on the best armor. And the only time now that I'm in the end game and doing optional boss fights with harder bosses that the main campaign doesn't have, now I'm actually sitting here saying, okay, maybe I should purposely put on certain armor to have certain effects so I can do more damage in certain situations. Like let's say if I want to focus on doing a bunch of frost damage, there's armor that builds up all your elemental attacks. Then I can put on a bunch of elemental buffing skills and abilities. You know what I'm saying? I can build Kratos how I want when it depends on what I want to do with him. But when it comes to the main story, you do not have to worry about that. It's for optional things at the end of the game. There's also this like gem socket system that was technically in the first game, but it was done a little bit differently. These gem socket things, it's like you can have I think you can have up to nine of them, but you got to unlock them all, and you can kind of build up these different status effects. I don't think all these things are kind of weird though. Like one is like if you get 3 in a row, you can like do a bunch of slam damage. That's a new mechanic in the game. If you run off a cliff and press the attack button, Kratos will slam down with whatever weapon he's using. That is such a very particular thing that like that's one of those new gameplay mechanics in the game that like honestly it didn't pop up as much as you think it would. So I don't know if you would want to put that on, but my point of bringing this up is like all these socket things you can attach to Kratos. Oftentimes what they give you, the bonus, is like, when am I going to ever use this? Maybe it's certain situations it makes sense, but honestly, I look at that as just that actually seems almost like a pointless addition, because the reward is pointless. Now the default stat boosts they give you, like you get boosts and cooldown, luck, and that stuff is worth it. But the thing that you're looking forward to getting, which is having 3 in a row and then getting the unlocked ability, half of them don't even seem important. Now I know the combat section seemed a little brief, but it's just really not much new to talk about. It's a more refined version of 2018. The only cons I will say is the cons that will already exist in 2018, which would be the camera, getting attacked off camera. You know, maybe if they want to keep the camera, like I never had a problem when they had big boss fights, the camera still at a third person over the shoulder view, but the camera was more spread out wide. Maybe they should do that. Maybe they should make the camera just expand out further so you can see more of the screen. But as long as it stays up close and personal on Kratos, even in combat like that, it's going to always be an issue when you're fighting multiple enemies at once. When you're fighting one-on-one right in front of you, perfect. When you're fighting like 5 or 6 enemies and they coming at you all directions, very bad type of camera. Now, one thing about the gameplay that I got to say that God of War 2018 did not do as well, and this game just blew it out the water. I would say God of War Ragnarok, it's a Metroidvania kind of sort of game. It's not exactly that, but it's close enough. I actually sat there and said, you know what? I've had many debates with Nintendo fans about modern Zelda, and I don't have a problem with what modern Zelda is, but I've been saying, look, just because something's open world and you could do a bunch of stuff in it doesn't mean it's better. God of War 2018 was linear. God of War Ragnarok is what you could say linear. Now, these games have like these open hub world sections, which you can do a lot more exploring, but in general, compared to any other type of game, you could say it's linear with some open areas. Let me tell you something. I've been looking for a modern day Zelda vibe, like, you know, like the old school Zelda, you know, like Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask type. This filled my void. Somehow God of War, which started off kind of in the Devil May Cry hack and slash genre, has now woven in a Metroid slash Zelda style mechanic in its gameplay. And I got to tell you, this is an evolution I wasn't seeing coming. This is the part about Ragnarok that honestly, I didn't hear too many people talk about. I never heard everybody just talked about the typical stuff, the default stuff like the combat and the graphics and Kratos and the story with his son and all that stuff. But this part of the game is something I'm like, why didn't anyone mention this in the reviews that I seen, you know, when the game was first coming out? So if you don't know what I mean, you know, when you're going through the main story, like this is how cool, this is how smart they were with development. The main story will take you down these very linear paths where, you know, obviously it's treasure chests and things you can find around you and some, you know, puzzles. But then it's like once you beat the main campaign part of that section, then it's like this whole open part of the world with a bunch of side quests in it. And like every realm seems to have this. And when I tell you, it's so many like nooks, like you'll be in one area and you'll say, okay, how do I get, you'll see an opening at the top. How do I get over there? You figure out how to get over there. And then it loops you around to all these different places with all these different puzzles and all these different side quests just to circle you back to the entrance where you were. And it's just, it's like the craftsmanship of these levels were so well done. It just reminded me of Zelda dungeons of the past. And this just makes me sit here and say, Nintendo and Nintendo fans, this is what we were talking about. This game, you know, it's not an open world game, but it has a quote unquote open environment section. Like this could be done in Zelda. I know this is a review for Ragnarok. It's not about Zelda, but my point is, if you don't know who I am and how I view Zelda, Zelda is one of my favorite franchises. The fact that I'm even saying God of War is one of my favorite franchises too, but I never put it in that realm. I never put it in that legendary status. Ragnarok, with all its flaws, which ain't many, I'm putting in legendary status because of how well these levels were designed, how well these puzzles were designed, these side quests, the interactions with the characters while you're playing the game. All of that was phenomenal. Like the camera angle thing is just, that's a minor issue when it comes to the overall goodness that you're getting. So if you're anyone that loves treasure hunting, you love puzzles, you love a Metroidvania-esque feel with some heavy hitting combat, you get everything. There's nothing this game is lacking. You know how some games give you great puzzles, great environmental elements and traversal and stuff like that, but the combat is normal. Like it's just whatever. This isn't like this. Like I said, I did a review of Ghost of Tsushima. That was my last review. Ghost of Tsushima had a very nice looking world. And one of my favorite parts of that game was doing the shrines. You know, you go and explore the shrines and you do a little light platforming and you get out of here. But the rest of the game was just kind of, it was just mediocre. This is the complete opposite. Everything is top tier. Everything is great except for that camera angle. Everything is amazing. The combat, if you want visceral over, now if you want combat with a bunch of combos, you could kind of do a little something here, but when it comes to Devil May Cry Bayonetta, you're not getting that type of vibe. When it comes to, you know, puzzles, I'm not saying that this is going to make your brain hurt, but there were puzzles which made me sit there and think. There were puzzles that made me sit there and say, I don't know what to do. And there was that, you know, now one thing that was annoying about this game that they kind of fixed was in the beginning, the partner that you'll be with different type of characters. They'll like tell you how to solve the puzzle. There's an option that makes it so that they don't really do that, or they do it very like on a low vibration. They don't do it as often. Now, when you start doing optional side puzzles that aren't necessarily connected to a side quest, they don't say anything. And those are the ones that really like stomp me sometimes, me sitting there like, what the heck? Because I'll be sitting there like, I can see what I'm supposed to do, but what am I really missing? And it you know how it is with puzzles sometimes. It's always that one thing you didn't notice. You feel like an idiot, but it's that fun feel. It's that fun feeling stupid. You know, I like that stuff. This game just, oh man, it just did Ragnarok. Let's get to the graphics. You guys already know how I feel about this game. So when it comes to the graphics, look, beautiful, great looking game. The colors, I'm a sucker for bright, vibrant colors. And this game and all its different environments, you're going to get everything. Like, you know, think about an old school Mario game. You know, at the lava level, there's going to be a lava-like level. There's going to be a forest-like level. There's going to be a sand-like level. The traditional tropes that you see in any game. But you put that in combination with Santa Monica's ability to make very great looking graphics. And these bright, I love the bright colors. I love how Kratos' weapons glow when they charge up. I love how, you know, everything just pops on the screen. Now, I did mention this. I believe I did. There is a con with this. Because everything's so bright and vibrant, when you are fighting enemies, there are these indicators that let you know, okay, this is an attack you cannot block. This is an attack that you can parry, or they're about to get attacked off screen. I had to go into the settings and change like how big those indicators were, because those things would kind of blend in with the environment in certain levels. So that was a minor, you know, issue with the graphics technically, because there should never be a problem where things are blending in where you can't notice something. And then again, it could be my eyeballs, but I did ask one of my friends, shout out to my guy Prel. I said, man, did you experience this? And he said, yeah, I actually did too. He experienced the same thing where he noticed like it was hard to tell when he was about to get attacked by a certain attack, because it kind of just blended in with the background. So that's a minor issue. But when you're talking about graphics, you're talking about something that you could say to somebody, man, this is a showcase for the PS5. This is it. Because it's not just what they give you, it's the clarity, the 4K, the 60 frames per second. The game runs smooth as butter. I never had an issue. There was like one level, I forgot what the level is called, but it's a level where you can like take these chimes and then change the time of day. There was like one section where like some of the level didn't load fast enough and it kind of pops in. But other than that, I never really seen any pop in. I never seen any like graphical issues or anything like that. So overall performance and everything was great. Now the story. Okay. Okay, this is where things are gonna get a little weird. I'ma just say this. Story was good. It was good. However, I can hear people now. No. However, let me just tell you what God of War Ragnarok is. God of War Ragnarok is the Fast and the Furious. You might be saying, Grim, you've lost your mind. Let me tell you what I mean. You know how when you watch the Fast and the Furious, it doesn't matter which movie it is. The movie is about being epic and about being action-packed. And there's going to be these times where something sentimental is going on, something other than something adrenaline pumping is happening. Ragnarok is that. Ragnarok is mostly an adrenaline pumping, action-packed adventure. It's the typical blockbuster movie type story that you will see in the summertime, and then you leave the movie theater, you know, want to do karate moves. It's one of them. Except there's a problem with that. This game, from a story point, See, it's too long. So let me explain what I mean by that. This game, it takes you about 30 some odd hours to beat the main campaign, and if you're doing a little side questing on the side. Not doing all the side quests, just a little bit. It takes you about 30 hours. That's a long time for just epicness. I'm sorry, it doesn't matter how epic something is. That's too much epicness for too long. If this main story was 10, maybe 20 hours, it would have been perfect. But it was too long. Because what happens is, unless you're able to somehow up the ante of epicness for 30 hours straight, it's going to eventually become not epic. You get what I'm trying to say? It's like if you saw one explosion, that's like, wow, that's crazy. Now imagine if you saw 45 explosions and the next, you just keep seeing explosions daily. Eventually, you know what you're going to say? I'm used to the explosion. Like I'm used to, it's nothing special anymore. So at a certain point, the epic moments in this game, I tell you, this is not really a spoiler, but anyone that knows the part of the game where you fight the big giant wolf, like I'm not going to tell you who the wolf is and what the significance of that is. Around that time is when I was like, okay, I don't like, I in my brain, I was saying I'm supposed to be like, this is crazy. This is so cool. I'm fighting this big wolf. And then all the story elements around what's going on. But it's not that I didn't care. It was just like I felt numb inside. Cause I had seen 1,000 epic things in a row, and it's no real break in between. And that part of the story is important, cause there's another part of this game story that's kind of silly too. There's these sentimental moments, and there's these moments where Kratos and whoever else is involved is supposed to be having these touching moments with different characters. Let me tell you what the issue with this is. When you're writing a story that's mostly about epic battles and moments, you have to have a break in between those moments to give the reader or viewer a breather to then get off their adrenaline pumping vibes to then accept something new. And something like I said, was it Fast and the Furious? That's a movie that's well paced typically, and they give you these moments of breathing room in the particular Fast and Furiouses that have those type of moments. Ragnarok, remember I just told you about the wolf fight? Right after that wolf fight, Kratos and Atreus have this sentimental moment that is so right off of a fight of a giant freaking wolf that it's like, dog, I'm not in the mood for that. I'm not in the mood to hear you talk about how sorry you are and how you ran Atreus away or whatever the heck he was saying. Like, I'm not even ready. Like, I just fought a giant wolf. And even though it wasn't as epic as it should have been because I was just so used to that type of stuff, it was kind of like, I think they should have gave it more time. There should have been some breakage between that. The reason I think the story is built this way is because I think this was supposed to be. I don't have no information about this. It just feels this way. This was supposed to be the second game, and then there was going to be a third game, and that third game was going to be called Ragnarok. This was going to be something in between Ragnarok. Because what this game does is like rush and introduce character after character after character after character. And it's not like you get to build up much of a attachment to them. The character that you probably spend the most time with that's new is Angerboda. I hope I'm pronouncing her name right. And even that section, we're going to go over that in a minute. That right there felt like the weirdest section in the game. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say this. Before I talk about this, this is the part of the game that many people say is politics and all that because this character is a black female. As much as people say that black females in games don't cause people to be triggered, yes, they do. Now, I'm not going to address all that stupid stuff because it's just stupid. But I will say this. This game was helped produce by, I think it's called Sweet Baby Inc. or something like that. And this company is known to jack up stories, and they do introduce and weave in social politics into gaming. And do I feel this section was a part of that? Yes, because of the length. This part of the game, I'm going to tell you, visually cool. It's one of the most interesting visually looking areas. You get to play as Atreus. You played as Atreus before this moment, but you get to play as Atreus and actually get to use him more often and use his moves. And it made me feel like, okay, Atreus is actually someone I want to play in his own game. He should have better moves, but this was a beginning of something. All that was fine, but the length, this section was just so long. And unnecessarily long. Like, it just felt like, you're going around collecting these apples or something. And I was like, okay, I get what they're doing. They're trying to build up, because clearly between Atreus and this young girl, there's a slight puppy love going on. That's what at least sound like or look like. But it's like, dog, this is taking so long. And then they're in the fight, not the fight, they're in the section with this fight with a grandmother. And I felt like something should have been shrunk in here. Like, why did we spend so much time with this young girl? And it's not even like you learn a whole lot of anything. You basically know her purpose in the very beginning, and then there's a part where they teach you about the giants and all that stuff and what's going on with them. And it's like they could have shrunk some of this, or they could have broke this up. Like maybe he visited her multiple times instead of this one chunk of a time. I just felt like this was a bad pace moment in the game. And another thing about the pacing in this game is just that there's so many points, like I say, where I tell you the worst one, man. I'm not gonna go over there. I'm gonna tell you the worst one, and this is not really a spoiler because I'm not telling you all the detail, but if you feel like it's a spoiler, then I guess skip past it. Okay, in this game, there's something going on with this mystical mask, and Odin wants the mask because the mask will let him see something. I'm just going to keep it very brief so you don't get spoiled. It's already established that Odin is a piece of crap, and Odin is a trickster, and Odin is not to be trusted. At the last boss fight in the game, which is obviously Odin, that shouldn't be a secret to anybody, there's a part where you're fighting Odin and then you crash through the floor and then you land in this place where the mask is supposed to be used. Everyone is like understood that Odin is a piece of crap, and Odin just did something very evil and wicked. There is no reason to even contemplate what Odin has to say anymore. And there's this part in the game that just seems so awkward where Kratos and everybody else is like waiting for Atreus to see if he wants to listen to Odin and use this mask to do this particular thing. And I'm gonna spoil it. He doesn't do it, and they end up continuing to fight with Odin. But the fact that they even paused to do it, let me tell you why this was so bad. Because the story began to feel so rushed. Because the story was it was almost like they made this long story that was supposed to be actually 2 stories in one. And then it was like to this point where the writers were like, man, we gotta hurry this up. So this kind of part of the game or this part of the story felt like a loose end. They just need to hurry up and tie up. So that's why they did what they did, but it felt awkward. It felt very awkward. And there's other little minor issues with the story. Like clearly these people don't keep continuity going. Like I said, I played a little bit of God of War 2 after beating Ragnarok, and I know the God of War story pretty well. And there's a part in the story where Odin's like trying to get under Kratos' skin, saying no one worshipped you when you were the God of War, and no one liked you and praised you. That's just absolutely not true. That literally happened in God of War 2. In God of War 2, it begins with them calling upon Kratos, and even after him losing godhood, like they still were sticking by Kratos, the few Spartans that were left. This is like the first few hours of God of War 2. So they just don't know. They just don't know the whole story. Like they don't really mess up too much. But if you know the whole God of War plot and story, it's kind of like some of this stuff just don't make sense if you know the whole thing. So guys, look, it's no secret where I feel about this game. It's amazing. Highly recommend. It's a system seller for the PS5. If anyone thinks, man, why should I get a PS5? Get this game. Now, if you play this on PS4, which I haven't, I don't know how well that version hangs up to this version, but I would recommend that if you have a PS4, I wouldn't buy that version. Just wait and get it on PS5. I know that sounds silly or whatever. You know, someone, oh, it's cheaper if I just buy it for the system I got. I'm telling you, if you plan on getting a PS5 anyway, just wait. Just wait and get this on the PS5 so you can play that 60 frames per second. Because I'm telling you, that extra frame rate is going to do you well. And not only that, if God of War 2018 made my PS4 sound like it was about to take off at the airport, I know Ragnarok is going to make your PS4 sound like it's going to fly into outer space. So I would just wait. But I'm not trying to hold you guys any longer. This game was amazing. This review was fun to do. Hope you guys learned something from it. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you let me know if your opinions align with mine. If you guys feel differently than me. I'm pretty sure this, my last review kind of didn't, some people didn't like it too much because my opinion was quite different than most people. But I'm pretty sure with this one, people will say, oh yeah, Ragnarok was great. And I'm glad you all enjoyed it just like I enjoyed it. So like always, I hope you guys have a blessed day. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you my upcoming reviews. It may be some indies sprinkled in, but guess what I'm going to be on, baby? That's right. That Yakuza, however you want to pronounce it. I don't care how you say it. I say Yakuza Infinite Wealth. That's going to be the next major review. But it might be some small ones in between because I got a few games I already beat. I just haven't got around to reviewing them yet. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.